Jim Cunningham here with Michael Francis, guest conducting once again at Heinz Hall with our Pittsburgh Symphony Orchestra. Terrific program. Music of our time, a brand new piece, Mason Bates, we've got Jake Heggie, and Bartók's great classic, the Concerto for Orchestra. Bravo, Maestro. There's a great backstory with the premiere on this concert, Jake Heggie's piece, which our principal cello, Ann Martindale Williams, had a role in bringing into being. She's done it as a chamber version in New York at Carnegie Hall, and she told me that it went very well there. But this is a world premiere of the orchestral version?
Exactly. So I've heard that recording, and it did go very well. They played wonderfully well. It's a deeply moving piece. The poetry, Laura's poetry, she sadly passed away, and this is sort of her, the very end of her life, trying to make sense of what's going on. I first knew about this when I met her mother, Charlene, in San Diego. We were together at a concert, and she introduced herself to me, and it was, of course, her daughter who died, and she spoke of the atmosphere at the world premiere of the chamber version in Carnegie Hall. She said at the end of it, she didn't know what to do. She was so stunned by the depth of emotion that Jake had managed to portray through her poetry that she was just almost wiped out. She said she was almost shocked by that, and thrilled that her daughter's poems had such a beautiful musical depiction, but it was a very, very cathartic and moving experience for her.
This is Laura Moorfield,
exactly,
the writer.
Yeah,
Laura, her mother was a writer too.
Exactly, yeah, and still writes. And in fact, I just did an interview with her recently, and she's still a wonderful writer, Charlene. Yeah.
And what kind of a cello part do we get?
An interesting cello part. I think what Jake has done, and I admire him for that, he hasn't just gone for something tremendously virtuosic. To me, the cello always feels of the human soul. We think of Dvorak cello concerto, Elgar cello concerto. For those composers, the cello, you really feel it's them singing their story. Of course, and the Elgar was written in 1918. It's his personal reflection upon the war. The Dvorak, we know, is his memory of his sister-in-law who he loved, and all that relationship and complexity of him feeling isolated from his homeland. And you really sense the human voice in that. So I think what he's done with the cello part is very noble. He's allowed it to sound like a cello. Now, I mean, it's not all squeaking up like a violin. It's a proper baritone tenor voice, lots of low, deep, very human-sounding, long melodic lines, as well as some virtuosic things. But to me, it feels really very vocal. And Ann Martindale Williams, of course, plays it wonderfully in this way, and I'm looking forward to working with her on this tomorrow. And it's not an accompaniment to the voice. In fact, you feel both are ones with words, but almost like in a Wagner opera, the leitmotif. Sometimes it's what goes on in the orchestra is the actual expression, and you feel that the cello is saying the bits that Laura couldn't say with the words. So I find that very, very touching, and I think it will be an extremely moving experience.
Have you ever met our mezzo-soprano, Jamie?
No, I haven't.
This will be your first time. Now I'm looking forward to hearing her too.
Yeah.
I hear she's fabulous.
Well, if she sings like she did on the recording for the Carnegie Hall concert, we're in for a treat. It's so touching, such natural phrasing, and also an instinctive feel for the meaning behind the words. Not just her technique of singing the words, but what goes on. And of course, that's what we all look for.